Welcome back to the vlog. This is, in my opinion, my best vlog yet. I hope you guys love it. I'm at the 2-5 game doing an $800 buy-in. The first hand I pick up is Jack Knight of Diamonds in the cutoff. The undergun player limps. The middle position player raises to 20. The other middle position player calls. The low jack calls. And I'm not going to call. I'm coming out of the gates firing. I go for a 3-bet of 120. Why am I at this table? Why do I have a spear gun loaded up? It's because a whale has flippity-flopped from the blackjack table straight into the poker room, lost his way, taken a shot. He's already in the hole about $3,000. I was told by a friend I have to come over, and not even Sea Shepherd can stop me now. I take the pot down. 120 is going to work. Scooping the first pot of the night. Orca has shared that he went on a roll at the blackjack table up over 20 grand. I pick up ace king and the low jack, 849 in my stack. Action folds to me. I open it for a simple 15. The hijack calls. Orca calls. The big blind must have ordered a special because he 3-bets to $65. But my hand is a stunner. $65 is like a cheap brunch date. I'm taking her out to dinner. I cut out chips, and like I'm leading a cavalry charge, I raise my saber above my head and go for the kill with a $325 bet. Orca, who called 15, decides he's willing to up the ante, and he slides in a cold call of 310. And then the big blind flats as well. Already $1,000 in this pot, and we're looking for an amazing flop. I have a half-size pot bet left in my chamber, but the flop comes a complete dud. I've already decided if it checks to me, I'm going to ship my whole stack in, but the big blind, for better or worse, says, no, I'm taking over the lead of this pot, and he ships in $500 himself. Unfortunately, as badly as I want to call, I'm not going to risk it on 2 unknown cards, so I sadly make the fold. This episode, I put so much effort into it. It took like 3 times as long as a normal episode. I wanted to make it perfect. If you can help reward me with a like, let's try to send this one to the moon. Thank you so much. 524 my stack, and I look down at pocket 10s. This is my opportunity to get my money back. There's a straddle on the pot. Still mulling over the last hand. I don't realize there's a straddle, and I toss in 15. The dealer stops the action, reaches out, tells me that this is not a legal bet, although I did go half of the previous bet size, so I'm allowed to make it 20. Orca across the table tops off $600 more. He makes the call. So does the cutoff. The big blind completes. The button completes as well. 5-way action to the flop. And it comes out clean. My 10s are an overpair, but I'm going to have to put out a bet in order to push out some hands that could outdraw me. I don't want that to happen, so I make it 55. Only Orca calls. I feel like I'm in a live-action remake of my favorite book in high school, The Old Man and the Sea. We're headed to the turn. It's the Queen of Spades. It's safe to make the assumption that the villain has nothing, but he loves to take over control of pots whenever given the opportunity, so I check to him, and he does exactly that. 220 into the center. A pot-sized bet. I'm pretty sure my hand is good. Actually, I know my hand is good. Plus, I'm drawing to spades if I really need it, but I don't think so. So I decide to ship my entire stack in. He's pretty much pot committed. He makes a quick call. $1,110 in this pot.
Wow.
You just saw the worst feeling of poker unfold before your eyes. There's nothing worse than when the entire table is taking money from a particular person you finally get your chance to in the most beautiful way possible, and they take your entire stack. I'm not leaving just yet. Pull out $1,000 from the ATM. He may have bloodied me up and knocked me down in the first round, but champions are made in round 5. The table is not going to miss out on this opportunity. We start doing bomb pots. We start getting crazy. And let me tell you, this episode only gets more and more ridiculous. Next on the docket, 6-5 of spades. On the button, 962 on my stack. The under the gun player makes it 20. The middle position player calls. The other middle position player calls. The cutoff calls. I make the call. And then it gets back to you know who. And he goes 150. Look at C2's face. He can just not believe it. The entire table just can't step aside when this gentleman is throwing money in the pot. And so the under the gun player calls. The middle position player calls. The other middle position player calls. The cutoff calls. And now there's $772 in this pot. $130 more for me to call with a good hand on the button. I don't really want to call, but I have to. 902 in the pot. Have you ever seen anything like this? I know I haven't. I just am soaking it all in. Even though I'm stuck, it's just making me giggle. We're going to the flop. I'm looking for a miracle. It comes out deuce 8-6, backdoor spades, backdoor straight draw, and a middle pair. And just like that, you know who bets all in, 8-12, straight into the middle. Absolutely incredible. And I just can't help but think I'm probably ahead. You know, you don't want to sink down to the level of the players that you're trying to beat in order to beat them. But we've all seen what he's playing with. He could have anything at this point, and when it folds to the cutoff, and the cutoff throws in his last 120, he has to with no matter what he has. I slam a chip down onto my cards. I'm not going anywhere yet. I count out my chips. It doesn't even matter how much I have. He has me covered. I just can't get over the fact that I think I'm good. I'm thinking to myself, is this where I take my stand? Is this where I ship my entire stack into the middle of the pot with a middle pair of sixes, 5 kicker? I mean, it's just crazy that this thought process is even going through my head, but I'm closing the action. But my biggest fear is what just happened last hand. I would hate to make another great play and then unfortunately lose to the run out. It doesn't seem like he's going to be getting up from the table anytime soon. So with all the strength I have in me, I decide to toss this one away and live to fight another day. But for fun, let's just see what happens. He flips his hand over. Ace-Jack offsuit. The turn's a deuce. The river is a 9. Surely the opponent has him beat, but he shows 7-3 offsuit. Seat 1 scooping it. You got to give it to him. Aggression wins pots in poker. I decided it's in my best interest to stay topped off at 1,000, so I take 2 blacks, add them to the top of my stack, and I get pocket 10s again. They did me dirty the first time. Let's see about this time. Our favorite player makes it 25. The other middle position player calls. The hijack bumps it up, 3 bets to 105. My hand is definitely going to see the flop for this bet, so I make the call. The middle position player calls. The other one does as well. 422 already in this pot going to the flop. And once again, my 10s are the overpair on the board. But the hijack isn't slowing down. He makes it 280. I haven't seen him get wild too often, and so I may be beat here. Maybe wise just to ship it all in, but if I do, I'm going to be down $2,000 on the day, so I decide to go with the more conservative approach of just calling. And I can't forget about the 2 players behind me. Who knows what they're going to do? Everyone else folds. And it turns an ace. Absolutely brutal card to see. If he was bluffing on the flop, chances are he could easily have an ace now. But he decides to check it, which is very interesting to me. I think that if he would have hit that ace, he would have been excited about it. He would have continued betting. But instead he closed the action, which suggests to me that he has a pocket pair, and he didn't like the ace. The river is another ace. And this time, I'm not going to check to my opponent. If I do, he could throw out another bluff. It's going to be hard for me to call. Plus, I could try to get value out of 8s or 9s, maybe get him to fold pocket jacks. Probably not. He'll probably call with jacks through kings. But regardless, I'm going to apply max pressure and put him in the hot seat. I stack up my chips, grab my black card protector, and slide in my entire stack. And now, whether I continue in this game or not, depends on what my opponent does. He asks the dealer for a complete count. The dealer cuts out my chips, counts my stack, $613 a call. Maybe he's thinking about it. Maybe he's just trying to save face. But either way, I'm starting to feel like I made the wrong decision. I think that I could have just checked, called in this situation. I have great showdown value, and I have great bluff catcher. And if he has a hand like 8s or 9s, he might put in a bet, and I'd get max value. And I don't really think that I'd be able to get him off of jacks through kings, regardless. Get him off the hand I do. He makes the fold. I let out a big sigh of relief. And I'm going to be adding a lot of chips to my stack, finally headed in the right direction. The dealer shoves back my last bet, and then ships over a massive stack of chips. It feels good. It takes him 2 swipes to get it all the way over. And finally, I am getting a little momentum in the right direction. If you want to support the channel and pick up a badass card protector, link in the description below. 1570 in my stack. And we go to a bomb pot. I haven't looked at my hand yet, and we make it to the turn, and I look down at ace, king of diamonds. I'm in the small blind, and so I throw out a bet of 125. And of course, the player of the day goes for a raise on me, 325. I figured this player's MO out. He loves to bet big all the time when given the opportunity. So I'm not going to pressure him. I'm just going to let him do his thing. And so, of course, I'm going to make the call. The river is the 4 of hearts. I check to my opponent, sticking with my strategy, letting him take that momentum that he loves to take. And he bets $600. I snap call. The player across the table from me snaps. Maybe it's because of how fast I called, but more likely it's because he wanted the player to win the pot, acquire a bunch more chips for the taken. But there's no guarantee I have this one in the bag. The villain flips over Jack 5 offsuit, decided to go for it with his Jack on the turn. It didn't work out for him, and so once again, I am adding a massive amount of chips to my stack, $2,655. It's an incredible feeling to finally be profitable on the session. Although I have so much money in front of me, I'm also in for maybe more than I've ever been in my life. But we're going to try to continue the momentum, continue the run, see what happens. My chip stack is getting massive, but when you're vlogging, they only get in the way, so I rack up 1,300 and decide to upgrade them from greens and reds to big league black chips. We're going to another bomb pot. The dealer pitches me 180 in the middle of the pot. He pitches me a second, and this time I'm going to look at him. The flop comes out 2, 3, 6, 2 diamonds. I wait for action to get to me before I take a peek, and it's 8, 10 of diamonds. I got a flush draw, and a pretty good one at that. Let's see if I can make some money. Player to my right tosses in 3 greens, 75 to go. This guy is a solid player. I have trouble getting money out of him ever, but this time I might have a chance. I make the call. Everyone else folds. We're going to the turn. It's the king of diamonds. Not only is it a diamond, but it's a card above my 10, which means that my hand is even better. And the middle position is continuing to bet into me. He makes it 100. I should probably go for a raise here, but I always just feel like it looks suspicious. It doesn't look suspicious. They don't know what I have. And that's doubly true on a bomb pot where ranges are out the window. But instead, I just call because I'm in position. And we go to the river. It's a 7 of hearts, and my opponent wises up and checks to me. I know that this guy is a good player, and so I'm evaluating what can I get him with. What would he call? I don't want to go too big. I don't want to go too small. I decide $300 is just right, but it's not going to do it. He pretty quickly makes a fold. Great discipline by him. Hopefully I can get him in the near future. On the verge of 3,000 chips, I look down at ace queen of clubs in the small blind. The hijack makes it 20. The button calls, and I throw in a 3-bet to 100. The hijack and the button call, 305 in the pot, and the flop comes out all hearts. I whiff. I decide to check to my opponents, and they all check back. The turn is the jack of diamonds, and with $305 out on the pot, I want to put a little bit of pressure on these players, so I throw out a measly bet of $50. 1-6 pot size bet. Surely it's not going to work, but usually on suited flops, if no one has anything good, whoever's the first aggressor takes it down, and that's exactly what happens.
You're very lucky, man.
No! Don't fold.
The right color, wrong suit.
The other villain alludes that he had diamonds, and chips are coming my way. Massive chip stack now, over $3,000, changing more chips to blacks. The player in seat 1 decides to try his luck at another 2-5 table, and I pick up 8, 9 of clubs in the low jack. There's a straddle on the pot. The under the gun has min raised to 20. I'm going to make the call. The hijack makes the call. 3 players to the flop, and 3 8s in my hand, and the under the gun, the smart player, is continuing to bet. He makes it 25. I'm just going to play it cool. I make the call, and the player behind me folds. The turn is a 6, and once again, the under the gun player is betting 100 on the turn. I should probably pounce again, but I just smooth call. I know he's hard to extract from, hoping that he puts a bet on the river. It comes at 10, and he wises up again. It's driving me nuts. He checks to me. So I have to evaluate how much I can get out of him with 7s, with 9s. Hopefully he doesn't have 2 overs. I bet 225, and once again he makes a smart fold, starting to drive me crazy. But what's not driving me crazy is my chip stack, $3,265 in it. I say bye to my friend Greg, a fan of the vlog, because I'm racking up my chips not to leave, but to head over and do some more hunting. I go to the table that our friends moved to. Some may call this petty. This is purely game selection. It's probably one of the most important factors in a poker game. And I'm in seat 1, he's in seat 9, so I have direct position on him. I go through a few hands, scoop a few pots, go through a few more hands, trying to get adjusted to the table. The rest of it seems pretty tight, but I have one goal in mind, and I pick up queen 10 offsuit. There's a straddle on the pot. Our friend calls, I call, the small blind and the big blind complete. The other puts out the flop, and I have top pair, and what do you know, the life of the party puts in a bet to 65. My hand's not so great, but against this gentleman, it's pretty darn good. I make the call, the other players fold out of the way, and we go to the turn, and it's another queen. Now I'm just begging my opponent to have a queen. Although there are queens that beat me, I have to be careful, I have to be cautious. And he checks to me. This is unlike any play he's made today. But I'm going to continue betting. He's going to call me with a 6. He's going to call me with a 5. He's going to call me with spades. He's going to call me with maybe nothing. So I make it 125, and he quickly makes the call. The fact that he bet the flop but checked the turn is kind of concerning to me. But if he had a queen that was better than me, he probably would have raised pre-flop. Still, I have to be careful because I'm definitely not folding, even if he jams this whole stack in. The river comes out, and would you look at that? Oh my gosh, this session has gone from better to best to the greatest. But not only that, the villain decides to step on the gas, throws $250 into the pot. I'm sitting with the absolute nuts, being bet into by the player that took all of my chips at the beginning of the match. I'm not going to let him off easy. He's got $725 behind him, and I go for it all with the power move, sliding in all of my black chips. He shakes his head back and forth, but makes the call and reveals Queen 9 offsuit.
Wow. What a cooler.
And just like a SpaceX rocket, the rest of his chip stack lands right in front of me. I've been vindicated from earlier. The poker gods tested me, and then they turned things around for me. If you haven't yet, drop that like. $4,470 on my stack. Lose it down to $4,305, and I look down at 4-3 of hearts in the cutoff. There's a straddle on the pot. I open the action to 30. The button makes the call. The under the gun player calls, and we're headed to the flop. I connect with bottom pair and a backdoor straight draw. Action checks to me. I'm going to continue betting. I make it 40, and both the button and the under the gun player make the call. The turn is a 5 of diamonds, bringing me an open-ended. And when it checks to me again, I'm going to try to take it down right here and now. I make it 150. But the button makes the call. The under the gun player folds out of the way. Into the river comes the 7. I made my straight, but the opponent to my left perks up like a hunting dog, and it catches me off guard. I just get this great sense that I should check. I do check, and he throws in a bet of 225. I, of course, am going to call. I make the call, and he flips over 6, 8 of diamonds. That board just kept getting better and better for him, and he's taking the pot down with the top straight. Ugh, brutal. The villain has left. I should probably go home. What goes up must come down unless you get the hell out of there. But I'm on a little bit of winner's tilt. Look at all those blacks. I pick up 7, 5 of clubs in the big blind. The button put on a straddle. The player to my left, who's cost me money last hand, puts in a bet of $50, which is a very strong bet. The butt makes a call, and I'm going to make the call as well. Why not? I've got all this money. And the flop comes out with 2 clubs. I'm on my way to a flush. I check to my opponent, and he immediately throws in 125. The button makes a call as well. I can't fold just yet. The board is paired. I don't like that at all. My flush is small. I don't like that at all. But I'm still going to make the call. The turn comes a blank, the deuce of hearts. And it checks all the way through. The river is the queen of hearts. I figure if anyone had a 4, they definitely wouldn't let flush draws catch up on the turn. And so I'm going to try to take a stab at this pot. Why not? It's only going to cost me 4 chips. I throw in 325. My new arch nemesis on my left. Takes a little bit of time, shuffling his chips, counting out the 325, and he makes the call. He flips over ace queen of clubs. He had the bigger clubs. It would have just been devastating if a club came, but the queen on the river got him to call. It was almost a good bluff. You can build a stack fast in 2-5, but you can also lose it just as fast or faster. The very next hand, I get 4, 3 of diamonds. Let's try this again. The undergun player limps. The hijack limps. I just complete. The big blind checks. We're going to a flop, and it's another beauty. An open-ended straight flush draw with a cherry on top, a pair of 3s. I check, looking to check raise, and my opponent to the left bets again. He makes it 20. The hijack calls, and I go through with my plan, make it 80. The big blind throws 220 in the pot before I can even drop my chips. This is definitely concerning. What the heck does he have? Another flush draw that's better than mine? A flop straight? A set? But of course I can't fold. I don't want to raise. He's got a lot of chips, and it would be like 2 titans clashing heads. I want to see the turn. I make the call, and the turn is a blank. I check to my opponent, and he stacks out a massive amount of chips, $350, and sends them into the middle. I think for a long time, I really want to fold here, just get it from the table, take my profits, but I'm experiencing a little bit of winner's tilt and loser's tilt at the same time. There's a certain threshold that you reach, whether you're winning or losing, where the money just doesn't matter anymore. Plus, there's a little bit of weird psychology going on with the fact that I have a straight flush draw, which doesn't mean much. And also that I have all these black chips in front of me, so I have to commit so few physical chips, even though it's a lot of money. Also, since he's being so aggressive, if I do hit my miracle card, I could take his whole stack and leave with like $8,000. So I do make the call, and the river comes another blank. I check to my opponent, just giving up the hand. I tried to bluff him last time, and it didn't work. And he bets the California special 420 into the pot. Of course, I have no choice to fold. And listen to how deflated I sound.
Yeah, hand is?
Anything? Yeah, I do.
Of course I do.
Nice hand.
Flop
Nice
another
hand.
straight.
Yeah, still losing, right? You believe it? You know how many pair and how many straight I flop and I still...
He goes into his Academy Award acceptance speech like a bitter Leonardo DiCaprio, finally glad that he won one. This is the moment of truth. Am I going to spin down into a spiral and leave a loser, or I'm going to take my lumps, accept the fact that I didn't leave at the right time? I win 2 more small pots, recoup some of my losses, and then I decide to rack up my chips, take them to the cage, and turn them into cold, hard cash. And I'm still a winner on the day, in for $2,000, out for $2,915 for a profit of $915. Thanks you so much for watching. Kato out.